Hello, my fireflies, and welcome to my dojo.
Oh, good God.
Welcome back to the Cyan Firefly. It's me, Lyiat,
And Azilie.
and we are here in Neverwinter yet again. We are demonstrating exactly how the combat system for this game works. Now, the combat system for Neverwinter is actually an active combat system. It works quite a bit differently from the MMOs of the days of yore. It is actually, it's even different from Guild Wars, actually.
Very different.
It's
not
a very,
hotkey based at all.
It's a very active combat system. Every time I tap my left mouse button, I make a swing. If I hold it down, I can still do the same swings, but yeah, it's extremely active. There's rolling around, there's dodging. I mean, that's kind of closer to Guild Wars, very close to Terra Online.
Yeah.
But it takes a major departure from stuff like SWTOR, stuff like WoW. So, there we are. So, first thing to explain to you guys is the basic abilities, the stuff down to the right and left mouse clicks, are your at-will powers. At-will powers, like I said, are the most basic attacks in the game. They have no cooldown time. You just throw them out there. Hold on. You just throw them out there as you get them. Now, the Trickster Rogue is interesting in the fact that it's the second at-will power it gets is a charged ability, or what I call a stacked ability. It has a certain amount of uses in it before you can no longer use it, and it needs to recharge. So let me demonstrate these two abilities for you. So here's my first at-will ability called Sly Flourish. It is a basic attack. It does a decent amount of damage. It's your main damage dealer. Pretty simple, not too hard. 4 attacks that combo very nicely into one another. And then we have, what's that called? A Cloud of Steel, which is a ranged ability. It is thrown. There we go. But as you can see, those little numbers at the bottom were going down as I was using it. I can only use that ability 12 times before it starts recharging.
Yeah, it takes 3 seconds to recharge each.
A single stack.
Yeah.
A single charge. So there you go. Those are the two most basic abilities. Now the interesting thing about Cloud of Steel is it actually does more damage the more you flurry it on one character.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Not only does it stack, it stacks damage.
Yes, it actually kind of cements this character in his damage dealing role. He is a striker.
Very much so.
Another thing I might want to point out is that you can actually lock in onto targets by holding down your control key. Normally you do have a soft lock on targets regardless, but if you do look too far away, you will start moving in a completely different direction. You will switch to a different character. However, if I hold down control, that's not a problem. I actually can't even move my mouse cursor right now. I kind of wish they would let you move the mouse cursor, but oh well. Okay, the next kind of abilities that we have, you are limited to 3 at any given point in time, are your encounter abilities. These are your cooldown abilities. Now, for the purposes of the demonstration, I have Death Strike, Dazing Strike, and Bait and Switch. Now, these are your more powerful abilities. They tend to do a little bit more damage, and they always generally have certain effects.
Right.
So I'm going to demonstrate them each in sequence. I have Death Strike, which will allow me to teleport in and stab. It has quite a bit of range. It does a lot of damage, but it can teleport you basically across the field and hit anybody you want. And it most certainly does more damage than this. So
just a wee bit.
Yes, probably about a factor of a third more. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. And then we have Dazing Strike, which is a slightly less cooldown. It does way more damage, about double the damage. And it also dazes the enemy, which is a temporary stun. So these two abilities combo very nicely together. Let me demonstrate. Done. So that combination does quite a bit of damage, and then you can combo it straight into Sly Flourish, which is a pretty good deal. And then your final encounter power, at least, you know, one of the first encounter powers you get, is Bait and Switch, which is a much longer cooldown and actually doesn't do any damage. What it does do, however, is give you a little duplicate. Now, you can see that little tricked debuff. That actually makes it so it eliminates all threat on you and puts all your threat on this little figurine. All these guys will now start attacking him instead of you.
And now what do we get for them attacking him, Lyiat?
We get action points. Now, something people might have been noticing is this little D20 right here. That's been slowly filling up as we've been going along, and it is now maxed out, which allows us to use our daily powers.
Which you can see glowy and full of color now.
Now, daily powers are extremely powerful abilities that can only be used when your action points are completely filled. Now, your action points aren't like a number. You don't get like 5 action points or 10 action points.
No,
it's a percentage. So, once that, like I said, once that's completely full, you now get to use one of these very powerful abilities. Now, I have Bloodbath, which is a large area of effect. It allows me to attack everybody in an area several times. Or I have Lurker's Assault, which allows me to basically buff all my attacks. So let me just demonstrate Bloodbath. That is an extremely cool ability.
I'm sorry, I love that one so much.
I
so
do love
cool.
that ability as well. But that's the combat system really kind of demonstrated for you. Now I'm going to swap to recorded footage so I don't have to keep abusing my computer with fraps. We'll explain the rest of this to you guys. Now, other aspects of the combat system are stuff like rolling, dodging, all that kind of fun stuff. Because there are enemies who can place area of effects on the ground.
Which are known as splats in this game.
They generate red splats that indicate the area that they're going to attack in. So it's a really good idea to try to roll out of those abilities if you are a rogue or a cleric. I'm assuming that the wizard's going to be able to do something similar. And for the guardian fighter, you can actually raise your shield up and you can block it.
Right.
So the combat system is quite varied. It all depends on what kind of character you want to play and that sort of thing. They also all have an ability bound to their tab key, which is considered a secondary class ability that always help them in some fashion. For instance, with the rogue, you get the ability to stealth yourself, which allows you to deal an additional 25% damage to all attacks, which is quite a big helpful boost. The other thing that stealth does is that it modifies most of your encounter abilities, which all have additional effects. For instance, when you modify Deft Strike, it increases its range to 80 feet rather than just 60 feet, which is quite a bit difference. Not to mention, it also allows you to teleport to friendly targets if you are in trouble. And then there's Dazing Strike, which the activation time is reduced by 50%. If you noticed while I was doing Dazzling Strike before, there was a slight delay between the animation and when you actually did damage. With this, instead, it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
And then finally, for Bait and Switch, it allows you to instantly refill your stealth bar. So when your stealth bar is a little low, you already stealth, you want to continue the rate at which you're doing that enhanced damage, you can just use Bait and Switch. Everybody targets your little
decoy,
shadow decoy anyway, and they start, you know, wailing on that. You gain action points, and you still get in a continued period of doing heightened damage, which is all really cool.
Right. Now, English. See, now I'm having the tongue problem. When you hit tab, is it only for encounter powers where you see these, changes?
Well, stealth, for instance, gives you a plus 25% to all attacks. I'm not sure if that applies to dailies, but I know for a fact it applies to at-will powers.
Okay.
Now, something I should also remark on is that you have limited slots for your abilities. You do not have access to all your abilities at any given point in time.
No, you have to rotate them out, and it's as simple as dragging and dropping them from the menu.
So there are more encounter powers, there are more at-will powers, and there are more daily powers. You can just only use 2 2 dailies in any given fight, 3 encounter powers in any given fight, and 2 at-will powers in any given fight.
Yep.
Now, that does slightly change up. For instance, with the Cleric, he actually gets 2 additional at-will powers because his tab ability allows him to go into a divine mode.
Right, and then
that
swaps
out his at-will powers for these other 2. I believe they're called Punishing Light and Soothing Light.
Yep. Something like that, yeah.
The Cleric's tab ability is pretty much the same as the Rogue's. Basically, once he goes into his divine mode, his encounter powers do additional effects, and he can put out a little bit more damage, and he can heal people more easily.
Okay.
Then the Fighters, the Guardian Fighters, is a little bit different. His shift ability is a block rather than a dodge. It allows him to mitigate any damage that's coming in at him.
Right.
And it swaps his 2 at-will powers to a stab, which I believe does a taunt, and then it allows him to smack people with his shield, which is a weaken effect.
Right, right.
They both still do damage, but that's how they work. His tab ability instead is it allows him to mark an opponent, which I believe slowly reduces the amount of damage that they can deal, as well as slowly doing damage to them. So it increases your threat, as well as making it so that they can't really hurt anybody else.
Right,
so
all their focus is on you instead of somebody else.
They do not gain any additional bonuses to their encounter powers through any of their abilities.
Okay.
Now, all characters also gain action points differently. For instance, with the Trickster Rogue, they only get it through dealing damage or through their bait and switch ability. Whereas with, what are they called? The Guardian Fighters get it through taking damage, dealing damage, and using encounter powers. Now, it sounds like they get more action points than the Trickster Rogue. Well, that's not actually true, because the Trickster Rogue has certain class features that allow them to gain action points very quickly, and not to mention they deal a whole lot more damage than the Guardian Fighter does. Then you have the devoted Cleric, which allows them to they gain action points through healing people and dealing damage. Everybody gets action points through dealing damage.
Right. Oh, it had to be common sense at that point.
I can't really remark on the Control Wizard or the Great Weapon Fighter yet, because we can't play them right now.
They're not available.
Notice that I don't have any footage of those 2 classes. They're not in this beta, but I'm assuming they will.
Hopefully, in one of the 2
follow
betas
these
coming.
these general trends.
Yeah, and we'll be able to see it in more detail when they actually come out in the subsequent
I'm assuming
betas.
the Control Wizard has some sort of blink ability that allows him to get out of trouble. I have no idea what his tab ability is going to be, but I'm very eager to see what it will be. And I'm assuming the Great Weapon Fighter is going to be something very similar to the Guardian. I do not know what their shift ability is going to be, but I'm assuming that they can also mark opponents to generate threat, because fighters are still a defender class, they are not a striker class.
Right.
At least if they're keeping with a 4.0 kind of conditions.
Yeah.
Now, the final thing I should mention is that your companions can assist you.
Yes, yes.
So, your companions can assist you regardless of what you're doing. It's a pet, a familiar kind of deal. And you can summon it before combat. You can swap them out. I believe you have slots for 3 active companions at any given point in time.
Yeah.
Everybody else goes to your idle slot. But you can swap them as need be for whatever role you need your companion to be. The companions fall into the same roles the classes do. The strikers, the controllers, the defenders, and the leaders. So healers, damage dealers, crowd controllers, and of course big tankies. So there you are with those guys. If you are in a group, you can still all use your companions, so a group of 5 people becomes
10.
a group of 10. So yes, things do get a little crazy in group play, so make sure to use your control to lock onto targets quite liberally, or to lock onto teammates if you are a cleric, or just make sure to blow all your AoE heals. But that is the combat system in a nutshell. There isn't really all that much else to it. I do hope you guys have enjoyed this little look into the combat system for Neverwinter. And I will hopefully see you all next time.
See ya.
And if you want a bit more in-depth view on the combat system as things go along, do check back in with us. With the full release of the game, we can tell you how threat works, we can tell you how aggro works, all that
definitely.
fun stuff. Currently, the algorithms for it have not been revealed, so I can't really fully remark on it. It currently just kind of looks like who does the most damage, generates the most threat, that's who gets targeted.
Well, isn't that kind of how it is in most
Unless
games,
there's
though?
taunting.
Well, yeah.
But
I'm a little confused about how taunting exactly works in this game, though.
Basically, in this game, taunting isn't a matter of raising your threat. It is literally a debuff that says, you must attack me.
Okay.
So, there you are. For now, this has been Lyiat with the Science... Lyiat... I'm tired. This has been Lyiat
and Azilie
with the Cyan Firefly. We will catch you all next time.
See ya.
Farewell, Fireflies. I'm gonna go take a nap.